Don Mazzella here again for Small Business Digest. You know, in all the years I've been doing Small Business Digest, I've only had two people come on twice on the show. Tells you how vast the small business area is. First one was inadvertent because I hadn't realized he had been on before. The second one is Laura MacLeod, who's on with me today. And the reason is Laura was on my program at least 7 years ago. We were trying to figure it out, but I can't. And and she's been what I would call a small practitioner, anyone under three employees or less, for a long time. And I asked her to join us today because she's been extraordinarily successful, and I thought I'd like her to share some of her thoughts. But Laura, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Don. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me for the second time.
Well, Laura, as we ask all our guests, first tell us a little bit about yourself, then about what you do, and finally a website for our audience.
Okay, so my name's Laura MacLeod, and my company and website is called From the Inside Out Project. And my background here is varied, and I started out, came to New York years ago to be an actress, and I had some success at that. I did a lot of commercials, and I did theater and film and all kinds of things. But as I'm sure many of you out there know, if not all of you, it's tough business, and there are just way too many people and not enough jobs and opportunities. So I found myself looking around after a while for something else. And eventually I got myself into social work school. I got a master's in social work, went back to school, and a license as a licensed social worker, with a kind of a vague notion of what to do with it. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I loved going back to school, but I didn't know quite what to do with it. And where I eventually found my niche, and this is what we'll talk about here today, is how to take the work and who I am and what I learned and use it in the workplace, and specifically around not just people skills, that's kind of a broad term, but how really to make relationships and teams and all of that goes on in every workplace. How do you make it really work effectively, ongoing? This breaks down to all kinds of things, including conflict, which I'm particularly interested and fascinated by, and boundaries, and everything about every workplace. It's all about people working together, however they're doing that. And that contributes to the success or lack thereof. So my From the Inside Out project, the name comes from the idea that when I work with anybody, and I'll talk a little bit more about my work in a second, but whether it's individuals or in a leadership workshop or in a classroom or directly with staff or whomever, we start from the inside. What that means is who you are, what you've got, what you need. And then we go to how we can take that and use that effectively in the work to make you more productive or make the team more productive, or whatever the goal is, whatever the purpose is. But we got to start from the inside. Too much of work I see goes from the outside. Oh, we're going to learn this thing. We're going to read this book. That's fine. Research is great. Books are great. All of that training is fine. But my approach is different in that we start with the inside and go out, and then we can really see what we've got and see where we are. So that's who I am.
Okay. So you have a website before we go further?
Yes. Thank you, Don. I forgot that. Yes, From the Inside Out Project.com is my website.
Okay. But Laura, we're going to turn it around.
Sure.
you've been successful. Like I say, uh, uh, average for someone in your category is about 2.5 years.
Hmm.
You're doing it a long time.
Yes.
I'd like to concentrate today on what are the things you've done um, that have contributed to your longevity. Um, First, um, let's start with who are your clients and how do you get to them?
Okay, great question. Clients are varied, and I'll give you some examples and then I'll tell you how I get there. I have individual clients who some of them come from referrals around my teaching. I teach group work, how to work with groups at Silberman School of Social Work in New York City. So I have a variety of students there, many of whom are working professionals in the human services, um, human services business. So they sometimes will come to me as individual clients saying, I'm leading a group, I'm leading my staff, and I'm having issues with leadership. I'm new to a job and I need help with that. So that's the individual work. They will also tell their friends, colleagues in their workplace and other places, hey, you're having trouble with this. I talk to Laura MacLeod. She does individual work, one-on-one, or whatever you want to call it. I also, then that connection, the students who are out there in the workplace, also translates to work within organizations. So for example, just recently, I had a former student I had during COVID, right in the height of COVID in 2020, who came back to me about a month or two ago and said, you know what, I'm now been promoted and my staff really doesn't know a lot about groups or how to lead groups and what to do. So could you come in and do some work with them? So I'll be going there in January for several weeks to work with her staff. And that will then also open up some more doors, I think, because she's in a rather large organization. So they see me there doing that work with her staff. There may be others there on the staff who same issue. They need help with staff leading groups. That's one way. Another avenue that I go through is I lead a couple of staff support groups in some very large agencies. And this is a group this particular one meets monthly, and it's any staff around preventing burnout and working through skills to increase productivity, whatever it might be. So that's been very successful. And that has also within that organization led to other similar staff support groups. They have a lot of, departments. So I guess the theme here is I've never limited, how can I put this? Never limited my reach. So for example, the idea of groups or teams, pretty broad, right? I mean, all groups are everywhere. So that idea and that theme, is in a lot of places, a lot of workplaces, schools, everywhere. So opening that up has helped me enormously, taking me places that were, unexpected. I didn't expect it, which has been quite great. It's helped me with my longevity because it's opened up more doors. And it's also been a great experience for me because those opening of doors just add to my passion for the work. They add to my expertise in all the avenues. So it's been really quite great. Not, of course, all fabulous, but all of it has been, I guess, by continuing to keep those doors open and slide myself through.
Hmm. Well, I'm going to ask you sideways for a minute.
Sure.
Um, Being a solo or a small practitioner, what do you do when the cupboard is bare and you're sitting there trying to figure out?
Oh, that's I'm sighing here because I know it's such a tough thing. It's such a tough place. Um, I do a variety of things. One is well, let's put it this way. I start by evaluating where I am with it. If I'm feeling honestly really like there's just no gas in the tank here, I'm really discouraged. Maybe there's been, a job that I really thought I was going to get and I didn't get, or I just, as you say, the cupboard is completely bare and I don't even know how to fill it. I take some time, I force myself to take some time away from it, whatever that might look like. For me, it could be, turning off the computer, turning off my phone for a little bit, and um, reading a book, maybe watching some kind of mindless TV, um, maybe even, I don't know, just getting away, depending on how long or what the story is, but just getting away from it. Because I find that if I'm too close and I'm too, concerned, worried, focusing too hard, that limits me. I can't, I'm just turning my wheels and the anxiety just increases. So that's a huge piece of it to me. I often find, really with all of my work, stepping away, fully away, is really an important and useful piece. Um, I also think that knowing, like, well, I don't know how this sounds, but to sort of reiterate to myself, to reinforce for myself, okay, so the cupboard is bare. Okay, so right now there's nothing happening. Um, this has been the case before, not the first time I've gone through this. So let me look at what did I do before, or how did it unfold before? Maybe there's something there that I can pick on, pull out, even to just sort of reinforce for myself that this is not the end of the world. Um, and then to move forward in whatever way that looks like.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you define certain areas that you go after, or are you more or less free to move in whatever direction the wind blows?
Um, I disagree. I think I would say I'm somewhere in between, meaning the first one, no, I don't say to myself, okay, I'm going to target XYZ and go for it. I don't really do that, but I don't quite just let the wind push me wherever. It's somewhere in the middle, meaning if I see, or from one of the doors I've opened, right? Let's take, my teaching, right? Where I meet a lot of students and a lot of students, professionals, even other teachers, et cetera. I got a lot of open windows there. Something opens and I'll see something. Oh, that's really interesting. Let's take the job I referred to before that I'm going to do in January. So working with staff that has a difficulty, they're running groups all the time with marginalized populations, support groups and psychoeducational groups, and they don't know how to do it. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, okay, let me work on that. Let me develop some trainings and some workshops for that, because that's got to be a thing. I know that from my students, former and present. They're thrown into doing this kind of work with very little or no training. And there's not a lot of training out there. So I've seen that. There's not a lot out there. So now that's going to be something where I'm going to really focus my energies. I'm going to be working in January to put together more workshops, more trainings that organizations might buy in bulk. Maybe they bring me in personally. Maybe they buy the recorded training that I'm going to sell them. and then I come back to troubleshoot a variety of ways that could be, you know, a great and you know, beneficial thing for me and them.
What is before we go further, your website for people if they're interested?
Yes, absolutely. And know that my
Wait a
website,
second, what is it?
oh, my website, sorry, is fromtheinsideoutproject.com. And yeah, yes, I'll keep saying it, fromtheinsideoutproject.com. Yes. And I would urge people to go to the contact page. As I'm developing these things that I just spoke of to you, they're not quite fully there on the website yet. However, I have a newsletter. I will be crafting a landing page, which will have that new stuff on it. And eventually the whole website will be, you know, revamped. But right now, best way to get in touch and just, you know, shout out wondering about is the contact page on the website.
Well, let's talk about the newsletter for 1 minute.
Sure.
What made you do it, and what do you hope to get from it?
Okay, great question. Newsletters, in my mind, can be great or not so great. And I had one several years ago when I first started, maybe when I first met you, Don. And I didn't keep it up. I think because I didn't really see the value. I didn't feel like I had much to say. It was taking me, also technically not too skilled, so it was taking me a lot of time to put this thing together. So I kind of dropped it for quite a while and just went on my own with, you know, avenues that I just talked about. And recently I restarted the newsletter with a different approach. One being, the first one I did had an actual short video of me, which I thought was a really smart thing to do because the work I do has all to do with who I am. And I think it's really important for people to see me, hear me, even if it's a short little clip, to get a sense of who I am. And I think that will help drive interest in me and the work and what the possibilities could be. I also feel at this point a little more grounded in what the newsletter could be, how it can be, sometimes just to check in, you know, happy holidays, here's what I've been doing kind of thing, or more of a, you know, call to action, here's what I've got, you know, let me know if you're interested, whatever it might be. It just keeps me in the minds of people. I'm also very, what's the word, aware of the fact that I don't want it to be too much, because I myself get very irritated by the continued pounding, the continued pressing and pushing, and hey, Laura, why don't you do this, and blah, blah, blah. I don't like that. So I don't want to do that to anybody. It's my newsletter. My shout out is meant to be a welcoming, informative, and, you know, do what you like with it, but you're not going to be pounded and pushed.
Well, let me ask you this question. Someone comes to you and says, oh, you're assigned to do an assignment, and someone says, well, why should I listen to you? What do you say?
Great. I love that. Why should I listen to you? Okay. I think I would say, first of all, I've got expertise in a variety of places. I think I would just share a little bit about, you know, kind of what I did at the start of this thing, maybe a very shortened version. And then I would go to, what is it that you need? What do you feel you need? I will want to hear that to see if I really could help you, or if I really could, or if you really should listen to me. I got to know a little bit more first. And that's what I would also demonstrate that I would do in the work. I want to hear from you. What is it that you need? Where do you want to go? And then I'm not going to paste on the solution. I want to make that clear too, because that doesn't help anybody, pasting on a solution. I don't do that. And anybody who says they do, I don't think that's so great, because the solution or the progress, the goal reaching, whatever, got to come from, back to the inside out part, got to come from you and us working together, right? Connecting and finding where you want to go. So I think I would start with that, and hopefully you'd find a reason to listen, at least hear it out. Right?
Your website once again for our audience?
Sure. FromTheInsideOutProject.com.
Well, we're coming towards the end of our time. What would you like to leave our audience with?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for this. It's been great. You've asked some wonderful questions, and I think I've laid out quite a lot here. I would say, I honestly don't know what else to say. I think that I guess I would say, consider what you need, what you want, and where you want to go. And that's the place to start, frankly, with any work. And that's the place we would start if you come to me or your organization comes to me. And I think no matter how that outcome ends, there's some really great work that benefits you, whoever you are, in your workplace situation, in your personal life, and throughout who you are. And I think that's a worthwhile project, frankly, for anybody.
Well, on that note, Laura MacLeod, we say thank you so much for a wonderful time together.
Thanks, Don. Really appreciate it. And happy holidays to everyone, and Happy New Year.